Well, hi everyone. Welcome to this month's Coffee and CU event hosted by the DBA. My name is Anya Escalante, and I am so happy and grateful that all of you are able to show up on a Saturday. I know that there are a lot of things going on and so many other competing contingencies, so I really do appreciate that you were able to find the time to join us and learn something new, interesting, and valuable. So for those who have never participated in a Coffee and CU event from the DBA, let me give you some quick bits of information so that you might be interested in coming back at another month. So we host these typically once a month, and they're free for Dissemination of Behavior Analysis SIG members. To become a member, it's really easy and pretty quick. You go to our website and you're able to quickly sign up. Membership includes these free Coffee and CU events, which we provide at no cost for our members. And you're also able to sign up for our Dissemination grant, which the wonderful Whitney Hamill was actually a winner. There are other perks as well that we can definitely get into. If you want to send me a quick email at disseminateaba@gmail.com, be more than happy to provide you with some more information. So, oh, and also we are hosting for members, we're hosting our DBA fundraiser. All funds go to supporting our Dissemination grant winners for this year. And you'll be also supporting a nonprofit because the DBA is a nonprofit. All right, so I'm gonna pass off the baton to Whitney, and yes, please take it away.
Hey, thank you very much. Let me, oops. 1 second, sorry. Okay. Sorry, 1 second. All right, I think we're ready to go now. Thank you everyone so much for joining. As Annie mentioned, I am Whitney Hamill Annie, and I'm a BCBA here in Ghana. And I'll be sharing a little bit about our organization, Autism Compassion Africa. And I'm really excited to be here with you today, so thank you. Today we'll be covering the learner objectives, my background, how ACA came to be, our 3 branches, which include direct services, awareness outreach, and continued education. We'll also cover briefly lessons in international dissemination. That could be a whole nother presentation. I'll dive in about our grant that we received last year from DBA SIG for a public service announcement. And I'll give you guys a little bit of an update about the current status right now with COVID-19 here in Ghana. Let me just minimize this. So for our learner objectives today, learners will be able to identify strategies for how to practice ABA in a different culture. We'll also be able to determine effective ways of disseminating ABA in a different culture as well. So a little bit about my background. I've been working in the field for over 10 years, and my work spans from the US, the UAE, India, Qatar, Ghana, and Nigeria. I've worked in everything from residential to in-home, day programs and inclusion, and also with the age range of 20 months to 21 years. So kind of been a little bit all over, but I very much love working internationally and hope to stay here for a long time. I'm also currently the director of Autism Compassion Africa and one of the co-founders. So throughout the presentation, we'll have ASRs. If you're not familiar with it, it's called, it's an active student response. So we'll ask different questions and then you just type into the chat your answer. So Annie will read some back. So for the first one, I just would like to know where you're currently listening from.
Nice. So we have folks in Tampa, New York, Florida, Ooh, Honolulu, Massachusetts, Tampa, Ghana, Chicago, Massachusetts, Virginia, Seattle, Canada. Wow, we're all over the place. Dubai, South Carolina, Philly, Kansas, Toronto, Massachusetts, Florida, Texas. Boy, the Czech Republic, Massachusetts, Florida, just all over. India as
Awesome.
well. Nice.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining me today. And in India, it's quite late there, so, and in Dubai, so I appreciate you guys staying up a little bit later. So I'll give you a little bit of background about how ACA came to be. I initially didn't really know much about Ghana, but my co-founder is my best friend, Colleen. She's pictured here. And Colleen came to Ghana in 2012 to do her master's thesis work in international development with an organization called Global Mamas. And she just fell in love with the country, was here for some time, and wouldn't stop talking about it. So fast forward to 2015, and I had moved back to the Middle East, and I had some more vacation time, and she encouraged me to go. So we took a vacation, just a 2-week vacation in 2015, met up with some other Ghanaian friends we had from Seattle that were going to be in country during that time. And so it was quite fun because we got to, have a little bit more of a local experience. And during that time, I actually did volunteer for a few days at a different autism center, but I didn't come at all with the idea of creating, or of ever living and working in Ghana. But through that trip, I really fell in love with the country, how engaging the people are, how warm the people are. And I just kind of stuck in the back of my mind a little bit. Fast forward to about a year later in 2016, and I was home in Seattle visiting Colleen, and we were just sharing about some different things. My contract would be ending soon in India, and we got to talking, and we realized that we could combine her experience of she had been doing over 10 years of nonprofit management, had this background in international development and African studies, as well as a certificate in global health. And then I had all this experience in ABA work internationally, and helping oversee and run a center as well. So we realized we could combine our two fields together in a place that we both really loved and create something. But we didn't want to just be two Obrunis, two white ladies coming to this different culture and imposing our idea of what ACA should be in this space. So we took a very important research trip in 2016, the end of 2016. And during that time, we had the objective of really finding out on the ground if these type of services were needed. So we want to know what currently existed, what was in place, what the needs were. We wanted to find out if this was something that was wanted, even if we perceive there's a need. Is this something that the local Ghanaians wanted access for their children, and also was it welcomed? And so in those 10 days, we met with 17 people, which was quite intense because we were all over the place running around. I listed the different types of people we met with. Some community members, maybe they'd never heard of the word autism before, but when you described what a child or someone with autism might be like, what some of the characteristics might be, they were able to identify people that they knew in their community. And they also told us, oh, this would be a great thing to have. We left that trip with a handful of parents actually already wanting to be on our wait list, saying, hey, can you come sooner? When are you coming? We need you now. So it was a great experience. It was also really great to network with some different other schools that work with children with autism as well, to find out what was working on the ground already, and how we could also join in. So that trip went great, and we decided to move forward with the development of Autism Compassion Africa. So ACA was founded in late 2016, but we actually, it's a process. So we became a 501c3 nonprofit in the US, and then we are an NGO, or a non-governmental organization here in Ghana. And we opened the doors in October of 2017 for, we initially started with 2 students. We had more on the wait list, but wanted to start small. And we had 5 staff members who have at least a bachelor's degree in a related field and completed about 3 weeks of behavior analysis training to be behavior technicians. Unfortunately, here in Ghana, it's not possible for staff members to go forward with taking the exam for RBT certification, but we still train them with RBT coursework and do competency checks. So we keep the same standards, but they would need to fly outside of the country to be able to take the exam. And I did hear actually right now the BACB is offering the exam online. So that's great. I have a couple of staff members looking into that. So of course, when you're setting up and maintaining an ABA company, there's the ethics that you need to look at, especially doing it in a different culture, country, background. So there were 3 that stood out to me that I wanted to talk to you about. So the first one is boundaries of competence. So behavior analysts provide services, teach or conduct research in new areas with, for example, populations, techniques, behaviors, only after first undertaking appropriate study, training, supervision, and or consultation from persons who are competent in those areas. So this also goes to show the reason behind that research trip, right? I'm not an expert on Ghana, and I've lived here for some time. I'm still not an expert, but we knew that we needed to come in and speak to those who are currently doing this type of work on the ground and learn to see what's working and how we can, participate and add to that. So the next one is professional and scientific relationships. So where differences of age, gender, race, culture, ethnicity, national origin, religion, sexual orientation, disability, language, or socioeconomic status significantly affects behavior analysts' work concerning particular individuals or groups. Behavior analysts obtain the training, experience, consultation, and or supervision necessary to ensure competence of their services, or they make appropriate referrals. So this also goes, I'm from a different race, also from a different culture. This also goes in how we continue to check in with those that we've networked with here in Ghana, and also with our staff members to make sure that we are, culturally competent in the work that we're delivering. So we have some amazing staff members. They're very talented, and it's always great to get their input when we're writing programs. Also, when we're working with families, we're checking in with them. Does this work for their family, and creating things together instead of imposing this idea that, oh, this is how I do it in the States, so this is how I'm going to do it here. And then the final piece is disseminating behavior analysis. So behavior analysts promote behavior analysis by making information about it available to the public through presentations, discussions, and other media. So we have been on, luckily I have quite a few media contacts. So we've been on TV and radio and some social media, live Facebook talks, sharing about ABA and autism. We also have done trainings in different schools about ABA and managing challenging behavior, different things like that. And there's also some more that I'll speak about when I speak about our awareness work. So the next ACR is, have you ever opened an ABA company or center?
Ooh, we're getting some no's and yeses. Mostly no's. A few yeses though. Yes,
Okay.
recently. Interesting. Okay.
I was curious what the audience, if it would be people who are current owners or maybe dreaming of maybe doing something like this later. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, we have another recently as well. Very cool. Congrats.
Awesome. So ACA, there are 3 pillars to our work. We have the direct services, autism awareness, and continued education. So through my career experience working for some different companies in different countries, I look to see what are the things that were very important for making a sustainable impact in the region. What are some of the bigger overall goals that we wanted to look at? And these are the 3 things that are important for our organization to be able to make that long-term impact across Ghana, not just with the students we work directly with, but for all children with autism. Yes, so let's move forward. So for direct services, the main place that people probably think of when, if they're familiar with ACA, is our ACA Center in Cape Coast. Cape Coast is a town about, well, it's not really a town, it's a little bigger than that. It's a place outside of the capital by about 3 hours along the coast, and we have a day program there. So we have 14 students. The program is one-on-one, and it is highly, highly subsidized for our families. There's a sliding scale that we use, and I'll speak a little bit more about this, but there's no insurance coverage here in Ghana. There's no government support for ABA services. So it's very difficult for families to provide, to pay for a whole teacher salary. So we have this program, and some families might pay something similar to a local school fee, which may be around $60 a month, where some families pay as little as $2 a month, and that also includes their food as well. So we have the main piece is the center, and that's what we opened in 2017. It's also a house that we've converted into a school. So there's 4 classrooms, and the age range is 4 to 21 currently. We have quite a few kids on the wait list, but we need to raise the funds to bring on more teachers before we can bring on more students. But there's definitely a need. And we also are the one of 2 special needs schools in the entire region. Region is like a state in Ghana, so it's called Central Region. And then we also have the consulting branch. So the consulting branch, we have an ABA wing that I set up at Multi-Kids Inclusive Academy in Accra. Accra is the capital. So we have 3 staff members who in that program who are trained behavior technicians. One is actually studying for her BCBA certification. She's about halfway done and doing an amazing job. And there are 7 students in that program. Some of the ABA support is in the classroom setting, and some of it is more direct one-on-one. And then we also provide additional behavioral support for other students that may not be in the direct ABA program. And then there's another ABA company that's been around a little bit longer than us. It's called TheraKids, and it is a ABA company that works in-home, and they also have a center where families can come for like maybe a 2-hour session. They used to be supervised by BCBA out of South Africa. They're still supervised by someone from South Africa, but it's not someone who's board certified. So I have assisted some on some supervision support. I'm not currently doing that with COVID shutdown right now, but we hope in the future to be able to help provide some supervision for some of their staff members to go forward taking coursework to become board certified themselves. And then we have additional private families in Nigeria and Ghana. It's mainly concentrated in Abuja, which is the capital of Nigeria, and Accra in the capital of Ghana. And this includes in-home and school settings for our consultation. So for autism awareness, I'll speak a little bit later about our DBA SAY grant, which we created a public service announcement. Here's a snapshot from Joy News morning show a couple years ago, speaking about autism awareness. As I mentioned, myself and staff members have been on radio and TV, social media. I don't speak the main local language chiefs, so I've had some of my staff members go encourage them to, those that have been in the field a couple years now, to be the ones, the voice speaking. We also have community awareness and education walks where our staff members go out into the community. They utilize tablets that we have to actually show the PSA to community members and share that, as well as flyers and other information. There's been education programs that we put on at churches to share about autism. We've done trainings at many different schools, also some trainings at the university in Cape Coast with the nursing school and teachers. And then upcoming we have, we were supposed to have, we'll see, it's a little delayed with COVID shutdown right now, training about autism and ABA at the OLA Teacher Training College. And another piece is we've had some internships which I think have been an incredible piece. So the UCC psychiatric nurses have been coming to ACA as a practicum site, not only just to learn about autism, but to learn about, they've learned a lot about behavior analysis and how you can change behavior without utilizing chemical, mechanical, or physical restraints, which they may be used to using in the psychiatric centers here. So we've had, I think, close to 100 students come through, and it's just been an amazing experience for everyone. They come for about 3 weeks at a time, most days out of the week. They're more of observing than doing any hands-on work, but they've been able to pick up quite a bit, especially about behavior. So that's been great. And then our doors are always open. We have community members, different people stop by all the time. It's a busy place, and we always offer tours around to share about the work that we're doing, to you know, help others learn about autism and how they can support those with autism in their communities. So I know in the States you hear a lot more about autism acceptance instead of autism awareness. However, acceptance and awareness are both needed here in Ghana. There's a population of about 30 million individuals, and if you use the CDC statistics of prevalence of autism, you end up estimating around 500,000 individuals with autism in the country, and there are maybe less than 20 schools or centers that work with children with autism or special needs in the country. So there's a large portion of that population who are not receiving any support. I was able to help participate with the development of the 2020 census, and you know, right now there's no data showing, there's no research showing this is the exact number of individuals with autism, or this is the prevalence here in Ghana. But on the 2020 census, they are looking a little further about disabilities, being able to capture that. Most people don't know the word autism, but we were able to draft some different questions that might hint to individuals who may be on the spectrum. So that may help at least get a little bit more data coming in, which could open up the opportunity for more funding, which is great. There's many stigmas and myths for those with autism and special needs in general. We've experienced and seen this firsthand. Some of our students have been called some really terrible names. One of them is this belief of the child being a river snake, or like a demon, not really a human. And we had one of our students, some members in her community were calling her a witch, and actually had burnt her. So we had to go assist with some community education to help make an impact, as well as for some other students. There's many myths and stigmas out there. I had a family I was working with, and they said their son was kicked out of the kindergarten classroom because the teacher was pregnant and she was worried her baby was going to catch autism. So there's all these different things out there. So there's a big need for awareness. There's also a lack of inclusive education. As I mentioned, there's quite a few individuals potentially living with autism in the country. There are laws on the books in Ghana that children are supposed to have access to general education settings. There are, at UCC, there's even all the way up to a PhD program in special education. However, most public schools do not hire special educators. When children with special needs show up, most teachers don't have the training or supports in place to work with those children. And unfortunately, many of the children are kicked out of the schools, especially if there's any behavior problems. There are special needs schools in each region. However, they are, many children, few teachers, and it's difficult for students to make much progress. There's also the human rights violations that happen against this population. I mentioned what I've seen with our students in the past, but there's also a BBC documentary that you can watch called The Worst Place in the World to Be Disabled. You can find it on YouTube, and it's, like I said, by the BBC, and she really goes in depth. It's actually a reporter who is in a wheelchair herself, so she is going around and speaking to people of all different disabilities and learning from their experience, going to places where, there's there's even a place in one of the regions where parents can take their child to a fetish priest, and he can return the child to the river. So ultimately, that's termination of life. So that would be a great documentary for you to check out if you want to learn more. And then the Human Rights Watch organization has also done a lot of reporting about the prayer camps that are throughout the country that unfortunately chain individuals with special needs and mental health to trees, and there's a lot of human rights violations that happen then. So in general, I'm just giving you a snapshot of things, but autism awareness is very much needed so that these children have access to a life just like any one of us. Our third branch is continued education. So, I'm here, I hope to be here for the long run, but I'm only one BCBA, and we can make much more of an impact by supporting local staff to move forward in gaining certification. So when I first came to Ghana in 2017, I was the only BCBA in West Africa, which is the size of the United States. There are now, I believe, 5 of us in West Africa, and 3 are all BCBAs here in Ghana working for ACA. So it's myself, another American named Cassie, and a lady that I used to work with in India named Akanksha. So there's the 3 of us, but unfortunately, we're not Ghanaians. I would love to hire a Ghanaian BCBA, there just aren't any currently in the country that I'm aware of. And there's some big barriers that are in place that are the reason why there may not be any currently here. So there are no verified course sequences available in Ghana. The cost of doing a program online can be quite expensive compared to the cost of living here in country. So a general teacher salary might be somewhere around $300 to $400 a month, and individuals need to take care of their basic needs. So trying to also pay for an online course sequence is quite expensive. There are a few ABA employment opportunities. So even if they do, move forward and take courses, it may be difficult to find somewhere to complete their experience hours. So there's our organization, there's TheraKids, but they don't have a BCBA right now. There's the consulting work that we've been doing. So we have been supporting some individuals who are in our consulting branch that are studying for us to provide supervision for them. And then there's one other ABA center in Kumasi, which is a little further north, but they also are not overseen by a BCBA. So as I said, there's also limited BCBAs in country to provide in-person supervision. So others may need to seek people online for remote supervision. And also there are no testing sites on the continent to be able to take the BCBA or BCABA exam or RBT exam. So because of that, that is a huge barrier. So say you can somehow get the money together to take the courses, go forward and get the supervision hours you need, but then in order to go take the test, you have to fly somewhere. If you're trying to fly to the US or the UK, getting a visa could be very difficult. I'm fortunate that I am American and my passport affords me the ability to get access to visas in other countries pretty easily, but for some other countries, such as here in Ghana, it can be a very difficult process, and it may not be possible to get a visa to go to the US or the UK to take an exam. So some people do fly to Dubai to take their exam. Getting a visa there to the UAE is a little easier, but it's still, you have to pay for the cost of the flight and a place to stay and the exam. It can be a lot. So there are many barriers. But ACA is dedicated to breaking down these barriers for some individuals. It's very important to us that we're building local capacity, so there is a long-term ABA stability in the region. We can plant a couple seeds, and those seeds can spread, and eventually those people can oversee other people, and it can just continue to grow. That's our vision. So we're currently supporting 3 of our staff in Ghana and 2 of our staff in Nigeria. They actually just completed BCABA coursework with full ACA scholarships through the Florida Institute of Technology. So I'm super proud of them. I wish they could hear you give a clap right now, but they have finished their courses, and most of them have finished their supervision hours as well. So we include supervision. We don't charge additional for that supervision. And a couple of them are also continuing their education and working towards being able to potentially go for a BCBA in the future. We're looking at trying to fundraise so that we can support them to fly somewhere to be able to take the exam for their BCABA. And then, as I mentioned before, through our consulting branch and just with other individuals I've met and networked with, we also provide additional supervision in the region for other people who are studying for BCBA or BCABA, who may not necessarily be ACA employees. So those are our 3 branches. We have, like I said, the direct services, the autism awareness, and continued education. But one of the #1 questions I get is funding. How do you fund this work? How are you making this happen? So there are many barriers. The biggest ones are there's no insurance coverage here in Ghana for ABA. There are no current government support systems in place for families to receive ABA services as well. Some families that we work with, well, I guess, so basically the main way that we go forward with funding is a large percentage of our funding actually comes from our consulting branch. So with the families and schools that we work with, these are schools and individuals who can afford to pay for the services, and that helps us highly subsidize the services at the center for the children, as well as provide all the other things that I've mentioned that we do. We also have fundraising that we complete in the US and in Ghana. So in the US, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, so all donations are tax exempt, and then we are an NGO here in Ghana. That is how we fund. But with fundraising and consulting, it can be difficult at times because you don't know how 1 year is going to go to the next. 1 year, maybe fundraising goes really, really well. But other years, especially right now, some families may really be hit by COVID-19 and aren't able to give the amount they typically give to support our organization. So we wanted to work on some more sustainable funding. And along with my co-founder and one of our US board members, we set up a sister company in Seattle, Washington. It's actually called Autism Compassion Services. And we opened in early 2020. We are continuing to work on the credentialing process. We hired a director who is amazing. And this will be for in-home ABA. So it's a for-profit company. But once it starts turning a profit, a significant portion of the proceeds or the profit will go monthly to support ACA and our mission. So that is one way that we're working towards building sustainable funding for the future. So that was me talking quite a bit. So let's jump for an ASR. Have you ever worked in a country outside of North America delivering ABA services? If so, please share where.
Ooh, yes. So we have a guest in South Africa, guest in Spain, India, Chile, Brazil, India. Wow. A lot of folks working in India. India, again, Dubai, Kenya, Indonesia, UAE, Czech Republic, India, Ghana, and Nigeria.
Awesome.
Wow, we have folks from working all over the globe.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So I see my time is moving, so I'm going to kind of rush through a few of these slides. As I mentioned, this is a whole nother training in itself, but these are a few lessons in international dissemination that I've learned and gathered from other individuals working in other countries from their home country. So as I mentioned earlier, when I first came to visit Ghana, I did volunteer for a couple days at an autism organization. When I look back on that experience, it felt great. It was fun to go do, but how much of an impact was I really able to provide in those 3 days, right? And were the suggestions I was giving, were they realistic? I didn't know much about the culture. Were they sustainable? I don't know, because I gave my suggestions and then I just went about my life. So it's important that as we're working in other cultures that, we're putting aside our West is best mentality, really speaking to those within the culture, seeing what works. If we are, making suggestions, making them sustainable and realistic. It's important how you're communicating, making sure that you're not constantly comparing to things back home. Resources and other things might be different. So, you don't want to push your perspective on how you think things should be. Also, when you are, say you're volunteering or you're working abroad, making sure that you're, like I said, not always making comparisons, that you're focusing on the positive. If you're sharing with people back home about it, don't post yourself with a bunch of children. Would you think about, like, if you were in the US and you went to volunteer at an autism school, would you be taking a bunch of pictures with kids and then sharing that out with everyone? Probably not. That's not really appropriate. So think about the work that you're doing, really being careful that you're avoiding any white saviorism, volunteerism type of experiences. A great reference is Barbie Savior on Instagram. It's quite hilarious, but kind of helps you have a different perspective in how to approach things. So some additional lessons when you're working with families, checking about, does this work for the family? If you're working on a hand washing TA, does the family, you know, we've had a family that we are working with that they didn't have a running sink for water in their house. They use a different system with what we call a Veronica bucket. So it's this bucket set up, there's like a little spigot thing, and it's just a completely different process. So if you're teaching the child how to wash their hands with a TA or a sink, but they're using a different system at home, are you doing any good? No, you're not. If you're working on language and they're mainly speaking the local language at home, but you're teaching all of the words to the child for their communication in English, does that make sense? Is this stuff that they're going to be able to carry over into the home environment? And these are things to think of even back home in the US as well. So, you know, study the cultural norms, ask your staff, ask other people for input, you know, be willing to learn. BCBAs kind of have are kind of viewed as arrogant sometimes. Please, you know, take a back seat, stop, observe, listen, and, you know, really take everything in before you're just saying, okay, this is the way to do it. You should do it like this. Yeah, and like I said, you know, network, ask other individuals what's working, and, you know, check with your local staff as well. So this again could be a whole nother presentation, but those are just some highlights. So now I wanted to talk about the DBA SIG grant. So I think over a year ago, we were given a grant to develop an autism awareness or an awareness video about autism and about ABA. So we wanted to do it in Twi, which is one of the main local languages, and we have staff members who are also fluent in sign language. And there was also a radio version done in Fanti, which is one of the one of the dialects in our region. So, you know, us BCBAs, we really took a step back and we let our local Ghanaian staff lead the way. There were different teams that were put together for scripting, translation, development, production, research, and media. So, you know, because if I developed it, maybe it wouldn't really register or connect with a Ghanaian audience because I'm from a small town in Oregon, right? It may connect well what I think is best, maybe what works for my community. But we need to have those in the community be the ones who are developing it. So I want to share that video with you. We made different versions. This is the long version for social media. There's a shorter version with just the educational piece that has run on TV, and then we have a radio version as well. So please watch the video. Hopefully sound will be okay, but there's also, I mean, it's in Twi, so maybe you understand Twi, maybe you don't, but there's English subtitles. So here you go. Okay, so that was the video that our staff put together, and we've been still using it for different autism awareness activities and events in our community. We then had our research team go forward, and they asked 25 individuals some basic questions about autism and ABA, and then they asked those questions as like a pre-assessment, showed the video, and then asked the questions again to see if there was learning that occurred about these topics during the video. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to briefly jump through. But you can see we asked teacher trainees, health trainees, community members, teachers, and health professionals. And health professionals and health trainees had heard of autism before. There was one teacher who had heard of autism before, but there were many who hadn't. And then after the video, we're able to speak a little bit more about it. When looking at the signs and definition of autism, the same thing there for health trainees, there was some knowledge, but not as much for teacher trainees and community members. We also asked where to seek support for those with autism. So health professionals had a little bit of background information. And then for knowledge of ABA, had they ever heard of applied behavior analysis before? We asked them what ABA was, and there was none. And then afterwards, they were able to identify that ABA was applied behavior analysis. So there's more I could speak to that, but I want to jump ahead. So let's do a quick ASR. If you could start an ABA program anywhere in the world, where would you want to set it up?
Ooh, we're getting some results. Asia, Egypt, Ghana, North America, Russia, everywhere. I love that response. India, UAE, maybe even Massachusetts, India, Liberia, Latin America, very cool. South America, nice. Italy, Spain, anywhere in Africa, Argentina. I'm not sure. I'll need to do research. I wasn't prepared for that question. Valid. Yeah, we're getting.
I just saw that some people weren't able to hear the audio for the video, so I apologize about that. But as I said, it was also in Chi, which is one of the local languages here. So maybe you'd be able to understand it, maybe not. But I'm sorry, but it is on our YouTube channel for Autism Compassion Africa, if you'd like to check it out. So many people want to know what's happening now with COVID-19. How are things in Ghana? There are over 1,000 cases here. Ghana has actually been testing the most people per capita in Africa. So I think they're doing a great job in leading the way with testing many individuals. But things have really been shut down, and schools have actually been closed since early March, which means our students haven't been able to have access to that, as well as our our students in the consulting branch. So we've been working to develop culturally relevant telehealth parent trainings and services. For some of our families that attend the school, there are other barriers in place for access to telehealth, with having smart devices to be able to do any video conferencing. Internet is also very expensive. So we recently wrote a grant, fingers crossed, for us to be able to further develop this culturally relevant telehealth program, as well as gain access to some technology and funds to be able to support our families to access it. For right now, we are utilizing the phone for some phone conversations. We continue, because of this, of course, our funding has been greatly impacted. Not only, do we have, so we have, like I said, the consulting branch is most of our funding. Most of that is shut down right now. We're working on developing some telehealth. We're able to support some parents and families right now with telehealth, but some of that is still in development, and it's not nearly the same amount of hours. We also hold our big annual fundraiser in the US in May, and unfortunately it looks like that's not going to be able to happen anytime soon. So that greatly impacts our funding as well. But we're trying to get creative in our fundraising. We continue to keep staff on payroll. We're doing everything we can to support our staff members because sometimes they also support many other family members. We're continuing to feed families as well that are already depend on ACA for meals. So we're doing what we can. We're trying to get creative. We just launched a GoFundMe campaign, and the link is below. Maybe I can try to put that in the chat. Or Colleen, if you're on, you can put that in the chat. And we're encouraging people to also be able to donate and support via Facebook as well. So if what I've shared with you today has touched your heart in the work that we're doing here, and you'd like to help ACA survive this difficult time, we'd appreciate any support that you may be able to send our way. So thank you. Just wanted to share a little bit about that and what we're doing. So in summary, these are some important things to consider when setting up a program outside of your home country. Make sure you do your research. Go there, spend some time, learn about the culture. Think about the sustainability. How can you support local growth? Really being careful that you're avoiding white saviorism and volunteerism if you're going to volunteer. And like I said, these lessons can also be applied when volunteering. Don't make the same mistake I did of going for just a couple days and sharing some things, but really not following up and making that greater impact. There's some ways that you can support local capacity from the US. We have a Facebook group that I helped create with some other amazing BCBAs called ABA Africa. And on there you can join, and there's people that are sometimes looking for supervisors and at a reduced rate because they may not be able to provide or afford the cost of supervision. You can also look to potentially sponsor coursework for others on the continent. How can you, if you work at a university, how can you help be able to get the university on board with providing scholarships or decreased costs of things? Or how can you as an individual or organization create opportunities for sponsorship for coursework for those on the continent and in other developing countries? So that went by super fast. I think I threw a lot of information at you guys, but I hope that you took something away from it. I'd be happy to get your feedback and questions. Hopefully we'll have some time now. I know some people may have to go. But if you have to jump off now, please feel free to send any feedback or questions to Autism Compassion Africa at gmail.com. And Annie, I'll hand it back over to you for questions.
Wonderful. So quickly, so you can obtain your CE, I will be sending out an email to the individuals who registered. In that email, you'll have a link to the recording. So if you want to rewatch the recording, you're more than welcome to do so. You'll also, in that email, receive a link to the Google survey, which will be the quiz that you'll need to answer to obtain your CE, and also a list of the resources that were verbalized during the talk today. And yes, if anyone has any sort of questions, comments, concerns, you are more than welcome to unmute yourself and yeah, just talk and chat, or you can also just quickly type your question in the chat box.
Hi, Whitney.
Hi.
And hi. I had a question. Is there anything that's going on with like government awareness and possibility of moving more towards autism acceptance and getting more involved with ABA outside of what you guys have done?
So it's interesting because right before everything hit with COVID, we were trying to actually look at getting a meeting with the Minister for Education to speak more about ABA, more from the direction of how we can support providing trainings to other schools and centers to learn more about it. So there's some work, like I mentioned, there's the special needs schools, there's laws on the books, but there's not a lot of action that's happening on the ground for individuals with autism. It's all driven by private organizations, NGOs. So there's some amazing autism mamas who have set up organizations here. One of them, Auntie Sarwa, opened an autism center here over 20 years ago, and she does amazing work. So it's mainly driven by those organizations more so than the government from what I have seen. So we need to get a little more further out there, but we'll see how we can support.
Nice. So we have saying thank you for the talk, such nice information. This was awesome, Whitney. Great info. Let's see. I had someone ask about the PowerPoint. Would it be okay if I share the PowerPoint in our closing email?
Yeah, I have an updated version. I made a few changes, so I'll email it to you, and then you can share it.
Awesome. Perfect. And then thanks for sharing the experience, Whitney. It was so great to see and hear about your Ghana story. So a lot of folks are just saying thank you. Ooh, I have this question. Could Whitney chat briefly about BCBA changes based on BACB's refusal of international certification from 2022?
Yes, that was very disappointing. So, but there are some different people working hard towards some alternatives, including the IBAO, International Behavior Analysis Organization, that they're hoping to be able to offer online testing, which would be amazing. They're in the development stage right now of, the code of ethics and what would be needed, what are the requirements for, coursework and experience and, all of that. So it's in development right now, but you can, I don't know the exact website for the IBAO, but I know that's something that's up and coming. It's really unfortunate. But even before then, like I mentioned, there are so many barriers that there were many people who weren't able to access it. So maybe in a way, this will open more doors for more individuals if there is an organization like this that can break down some barriers by providing proctored online exams.
Wonderful. We also have another comment. Whitney, wonderful job. I worked for 2 years in Guinea. I have an entire resource library of programs and PowerPoints in French, which are tailored to the West African population. I would like to connect should you ever need those resources.
That would be amazing. I have a BCBA friend in Senegal, and they also work in French there. And I know ABA resources in French are very limited. So Gabrielle, that would be amazing. If you could email at Autism Compassion Africa at Gmail. I'll write it in.
I think that I've connected with them in Senegal.
Okay.
Is
with
it
with Addie?
Yep, Addie has all my resources.
Awesome. And then maybe
she'll send you an email.
Okay, sounds good. Great, thank you.
I have one person asking about parent training. I think they're asking how is parent training formatted in your organization, and I also have another individual asking about telehealth, if that's an option for parent training and direct services.
Yeah, so prior to COVID, we did have parent training occurring. I can't remember if it was monthly or every couple of months. We weren't doing in-home yet, more so because of we don't have transportation to be able to get to all the children's homes that way. But we had families coming in, or siblings or nannies coming in and utilizing VST to be able to share how to generalize the skills some of the students are learning in our school setting over to the home environment. And sometimes parents were able to take videos too and send it back. Now with COVID, like I said, we're developing the parent trainings for some of my consulting families. We've been creating some online trainings that they can watch kind of at any time. And then there will be, so they're kind of get some foundation knowledge, and then jumping into telehealth services and supporting that way. My two other BCBAs are also working on developing that more intensive, culturally relevant telehealth trainings for parents to attend live and utilizing VST as well. And then, but it's all in development right now. So they're also going to be doing some research with it. So hopefully in the future, you'll see some of us presenting about that. But right now it's all in development. Hi, Sadie. Sorry, I have to say hi to my friend's little baby because she's so cute.
Oh, and Josh, he actually linked to the IBAO, which was wonderful.
Great.
I'll also include that in the resources section of the post CEU email that I'll send out. Thank you, Josh, for posting that. And Gabrielle Valeria is asking if maybe to connect so you can share resources. I think that's fantastic. Gita is asking, have you also looked at the QABA for certification?
Gitika, no, I haven't really looked into that too much yet, but it would be great to learn more about that as an option for up and coming individuals here. So if you have some information to share my way, or I still need to just do my research myself, but thank you for also mentioning that, because there's alternatives out there as well.
Perfect. And I'll also add that to the post CEU email, QABA. Awesome. Well, great. If anyone has any other additional questions you want to ask Whitney, please send her an email at autismcompassionafrica@gmail.com, and be on the lookout for the email from the DBA. It might be sent to your spam folder. I've had some folks tell me that's been the case for the past few weeks, and if so, I am so sorry. But I would recommend just checking your spam folder in the event that you might get an email from us. And have you seen a documentary called Outlier? It is great.
I have, and it's amazing. Yeah, we actually provided some sponsorship for them to be able to screen it in Accra at the mall last year for Autism Awareness Day. So Outlier is an amazing documentary, and I actually saw them right before all this COVID stuff. I met with Jimmy. So yeah, they're doing great with that. And then Colleen, my co-founder, Colleen Alabi, also mentioned that along with the fundraising that we're doing to continue to support our family with telehealth, that fundraising is also to help us overcome some of the barriers for telehealth for our families, such as technology and purchasing of some devices and internet and other barriers that are in place. for our families to get the support that they need during this time. It doesn't look like schools will be opening anytime soon in Ghana. So it could be quite some time that we're needing to support from distance.
And I'll see if I can find maybe a web page concerning the documentary Outlier and include that into the email, and also a link to the fundraiser as well. So if anyone wants to contribute, just quickly click on the link. Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's Autism Compassion Africa. The email is, could you put it in the chat actually?
Yeah, it's Autism Compassion Africa at Gmail.
At Gmail, okay.
Sorry, did I type it wrong?
You may have put it up and I missed it.
Oops. Here we go.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time to join and learn. It was really great to see everyone, see some familiar faces and some new faces. I'm excited to share with people who hadn't maybe heard about ACA before. So thank you, Annie, so much for this opportunity. We really appreciate DBA's SIG support over the years.
Absolutely.
Gotta get you to Ghana sometime.
Yes, that would be fantastic. I would love to go. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday and your weekends. Stay safe and healthy.